Hey, welcome! When we look at the world today, we're facing some of the biggest challenges in human history, right? Climate change, social division, economic instability, it can feel totally overwhelming. But what if the solution isn't just a new policy or some fancy new tech? What if it's a fundamentally new way of working together? Well, that's the whole idea behind conscious collaboration, and it might just be the blueprint we need. So let's dive in.
To get started, let's just ask a question that really gets to the heart of it all. Have you ever noticed how you can't talk about climate change without talking about the economy, or migration without talking about political stability? It feels like you pull on one little thread and a dozen others start to unravel. So why is that? Why does everything feel so tangled up?
Well, the reason our problems feel so tangled is because, frankly, they are. And there's actually a name for this situation that experts are using, the polycrisis. Now, this isn't just another buzzword. It's a really important framework for understanding why our old ways of solving things just aren't cutting it anymore.
So what exactly is a polycrisis? Look, it's not just about having a lot of problems at once. It's when all these different crises, from ecological collapse to political polarization, start to interact and literally make each other worse. The key here is that they're not separate issues. They're all part of the same huge, complex web.
And this is a perfect example of how it works. It's like a domino effect, right? Climate change forces people to move, which puts a ton of pressure on political systems. That instability can then break down the international trust we need to cooperate on, you guessed it, climate action. It becomes this vicious cycle where every problem just feeds the next one, and we get stuck in this gridlock of doing nothing.
Okay, so if the problem is this interconnected web, why aren't our current ways of collaborating working? Well, it turns out our traditional models are, to put it bluntly, fundamentally mismatched for the job.
And what's really fascinating here is the contrast. Our old ways of doing things are very hierarchical and siloed. Think of different government departments or companies that just don't talk to each other. But the polycrisis is systemic and interdependent. So we're basically trying to solve this complex adaptive web of problems using rigid, linear tools. It's kind of like trying to catch water with a fork. It just doesn't work.
And this mismatch leads to some very specific failures. Information gets trapped in these different silos. All the decision-making power is held by just a few people at the top who are often really far away from the actual problem. And maybe the biggest one of all, trust just completely breaks down between groups with competing goals. And without trust, large-scale cooperation is pretty much impossible.
So this is where the story pivots. If the old system is broken, what does a new one even look like? And this brings us to the core idea we're exploring today, a new operating system for humanity called conscious collaboration.
Now, this is not just about better project management or having more meetings. It's about upgrading our own awareness. It's about understanding ourselves, our relationships, and the incredibly complex systems we're trying to change, all at the same time. It's about being really, truly intentional in how we choose to work together.
And it all works by aligning three key levels at once. First, it starts with us, as individuals, getting a handle on our own biases and beliefs. Then it moves outward to our relationships, building the trust and safety we need to have honest conversations. And finally, it scales up to a shared, systemic understanding of the problem itself. And when you get these three levels in sync, that's when something pretty incredible starts to happen.
So how do we get these three levels in sync?
Well, conscious collaboration is guided by 5 core principles. You can think of them as the foundational rules for this whole new way of working.
And these principles are really what make it all tick. It's about having a shared purpose that's bigger than any single person or organization. It's about seeing the whole system, not just putting out fires in one little corner. It requires psychological safety so people can speak up honestly without fear. It absolutely thrives on diverse perspectives to see the full picture. And, this is critical, it's all about learning and adapting, not just sticking to some rigid plan that's going to be outdated tomorrow.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But how do you actually do it? This is where we get to the concrete architecture that's designed to make conscious collaboration a reality, even on a global scale.
So, this architecture has 2 key parts. Think of it this way. The synergy engine is like the social software. It's the process and the structure for how people interact and think together. And then you have the Phoenix platform, which is the technological hardware, the digital infrastructure that makes it all possible at a massive scale.
The synergy engine is designed to unlock something really amazing called swarm intelligence. Think about a flock of birds or a school of fish. There's no leader yelling out orders, telling each bird where to go, yet they move as this single, coherent, and incredibly adaptive unit.
Swarm intelligence is all about creating the conditions for that same kind of emergent coordination to happen in human groups. And it follows a really clear process. First, it pulls in knowledge from everyone involved, all the different sources. Then, the group uses that shared understanding to spot the best opportunities for change, the real leverage points. From there, it aligns everyone's efforts on those key points. And finally, it creates this continuous feedback loop so the group can learn and adapt as it goes.
But okay, how do you get thousands or even millions of people to use this engine all together? Well, that's where the tech comes in. The Phoenix platform is the digital backbone that lets this synergy engine operate not just in one room, but across the entire planet. And this platform has some pretty incredible capabilities. It lets groups visually map out these super complex systems. It uses AI to analyze massive amounts of data to find hidden patterns. And it pulls together knowledge from thousands of sources into one shared space. It's basically a digital environment built for true global teamwork, so we can coordinate efforts and resources way more effectively.
Honestly, one of the most powerful ways to think about the Phoenix platform is as a planetary sensor system. It's designed to pull in signals from everywhere: environmental data, economic indicators, observations from local communities, to give us a real-time picture of the health of our global systems. So when you put all of this together, the philosophy, the principles, the engine, and the platform, what do you actually get? Well, it's something much, much bigger than just a new collaboration tool.
What it really represents is a fundamental cultural shift. It's about moving away from the zero-sum competition and fragmentation that basically defines our world today, and toward a new culture of deep cooperation, integration, and, well, conscious awareness.
And just to be super clear, we're not just talking about better project management here. This is potentially an evolutionary step in how we coordinate as a species, maybe as significant as the development of language or agriculture. It's a whole new capacity for us to function as an integrated, intelligent planet.
And that leaves us with a final and pretty vital question. In the face of this polycrisis, our old systems are clearly failing. We desperately need a profound upgrade in our ability to work together. So, could this be it? Is this new kind of architecture the way we finally evolve to meet our greatest challenges? It's a powerful and, frankly, hopeful idea to think about, and maybe to start building together. Thanks for tuning in.